Justin Herbert remains firmly in the elite quarterback tier, still functioning as one of the NFL's strongest floor raisers even amid roster turnover. His edge over the league comes from a rare combination of velocity and accuracy under pressure, along with high-level shotgun efficiency that does not rely heavily on schematic assistance. The primary constraint is structural rather than individual. Against elite defenses, the offense still needs more built-in help to consistently convert efficiency into points. The bottom line is that the Chargers retain a significant league advantage at quarterback, one that most teams cannot replicate. At the skill positions, however, the offense lags behind league standards. The current wide receiver group sits in the bottom third of the NFL, with limited separation ability against man coverage and no true X receiver who forces defensive safety rotation. While the unit does execute routes cleanly and maintains spacing discipline, it struggles to generate explosive plays. Relative to the league, this places additional strain on Herbert compared to quarterbacks like Mahomes, Purdy, or Stroud, who benefit from greater receiver-driven stress. The tight end group similarly ranks in the bottom third, offering minimal vertical seam pressure and little red zone mismatch potential. As a result, defenses can comfortably remain in too high shells without paying a structural penalty. The running back committee is more functional than deficient, grading out as average to slightly below league average. It provides reliable pass protection and ball security, but lacks explosive run production and meaningful receiving upside against linebackers, making it a stabilizer rather than a driver of offensive value. Up front, the offensive line profiles as a middle third unit league-wide. Its strengths lie in interior stability and the ability to hold up against straightforward four-man rushes, but it struggles with edge consistency and communication when facing simulated and disguised pressure. Notably, the Chargers perform worse than league average against pressure disguise, an issue that elite defenses are well equipped to exploit, and that directly compounds the limitations elsewhere in the offense. On the defensive front, the Chargers' edge group remains solid, but no longer dominant by league standards. Khalil Mack profiles as a high-end starter with situational elite impact, continuing to win with power and refined hand usage while maintaining a pressure rate above the league average. What has faded is snap-to-snap dominance, as his impact now comes in controlled bursts rather than constant disruption. Tuli Tuipulotu complements him well as an above-average young edge defender, bringing a relentless motor, inside-out versatility, and value as a secondary pressure creator. Taken together, the unit grades out as league average to slightly above, but without the game-wrecking profile it once had. Inside, the defensive line is an average league unit whose primary value lies in run-fit integrity rather than interior pass rush. The group does its job structurally, holding gaps and preventing easy run lanes, but does not meaningfully tilt passing downs. This places them squarely in the neutral category when compared to league peers. The linebacker unit is a clearer weakness, ranking in the bottom third of the NFL. Limitations in coverage range and inconsistent play-action discipline make this group a frequent target for opposing offenses, particularly in high-leverage situations where stress is applied through misdirection, layered routes, and quick game concepts. In the secondary, the cornerback group is above average overall, with strong zone match discipline and good timing at the catch point. The notable limitation is the absence of a true man coverage eraser capable of consistently neutralizing elite X receivers. The safety group grades out as average, functioning primarily as a structural backstop rather than a consistent source of splash plays. On special teams, the Chargers hold an above-average league profile, driven largely by kicking consistency. The return game, however, is neutral and does not meaningfully add or subtract value relative to the rest of the league. From a league relative standpoint after the roster reset, the Chargers' advantages are narrow but meaningful. Quarterback remains a major edge, secondary discipline is a real strength, and the edge group still provides veteran depth, even if it no longer dictates games. Much of the roster, however, sits in neutral territory. The offensive line, interior defensive line, and running backs neither meaningfully elevate nor sink outcomes relative to league averages. The clearest deficiencies show up in wide receiver explosiveness, tight end leverage, and linebacker athleticism, all of which fall below league norms and shape how opponents attack the Chargers. The more important modeling truth is that the Chargers are among the most quarterback-dependent teams in the NFL. They win when Justin Herbert's execution exceeds league expectations, not when the roster consistently creates structural mismatches. This makes them dangerous on a week-to-week basis, volatile against elite defenses that can compress windows and disguise pressure, and difficult to model accurately without quarterback-centric variables such as time to throw, pressure rates, and coverage shell context. In league relative passer identification, Herbert firmly remains an elite quarterback, generally in the top 5 to 7 range depending on how metrics are weighted. This holds even when isolating passer-only data, which is critical because it strips away both scheme-driven inflation and supporting cast excuses. His separation from the league shows up most clearly in difficulty-adjusted passing, where he consistently generates positive EPA per dropback on tight window throws and intermediate to deep attempts, while maintaining efficiency without relying on play-action boosts. The league implication is that most quarterbacks spike efficiency through structure, whereas Herbert sustains it through execution. He also separates from the league in pressure-resilient passing. Relative to league medians, Herbert shows a smaller efficiency drop-off under pressure and maintains completion percentage over expected when forced off-platform. This is one of his cleanest passer-only advantages, and a major reason the Chargers remain competitive despite protection and skill position limitations. In pure shotgun environments, he grades well above league average in both EPA per attempt and success rate, underscoring that much of the offense is quarterback-driven rather than system-driven. Where Herbert is closer to very good than truly elite is early down passing efficiency. Compared to peak versions of quarterbacks like Mahomes, Allen, or Burrow, his early down EPA per play is slightly lower, with more neutral outcomes and fewer explosive positives. This gap tends to surface when defenses stay disciplined in too high shells and pre-snap windows are compressed, reinforcing the broader theme that the Chargers' offense relies on Herbert outperforming the environment, rather than the environment amplifying him. In passer-only terms, red zone performance highlights a subtle but important source of volatility. Justin Herbert generally posts good red zone efficiency, but his conversion rates are not consistently top 3 league outliers. This suggests that finishing drives is more sensitive to environment and surrounding execution for Herbert than it is for the very top-tier quarterbacks who can overwhelm red zone constraints regardless of structure. Taken together in a passer-only summary relative to the league, Herbert grades as elite in arm talent, accuracy under pressure, and shotgun efficiency, while landing in the above-average to elite range in tight window success. He is less dependent on play action than the league average quarterback, shows above-average red zone consistency, and rates extremely high in structural independence. In other words, a larger share of the Chargers' passing efficiency is being generated directly by quarterback execution rather than by schematic insulation. The key modeling implication is that the Chargers' offensive ceiling and floor are more tightly coupled to quarterback performance than almost any other team in the league. Passer-level variables such as time to throw, pressure rate, depth of target, and completion percentage over expected should therefore be weighted more heavily in Chargers' win probability models than they would be for a typical team. As a result, team-level passing success is likely to swing more with defensive pressure quality than with coverage disguise alone. When interpreting receiver and tight end metrics, percentiles reflect the share of NFL peers a player outperforms, with 0.80 indicating top 20% performance, 0.50 representing league average, and 0.20 marking the bottom fifth. The most stable receiver-relevant metrics here include yards per route run as a measure of efficiency and target earning, catch rate for reliability, average depth of target for roll and stress, yards after catch per reception for playmaking, and targeted quarterback rating to penalize negative outcomes. Within that framework, Keenan Allen remains clearly above average at earning efficiency, posting an 83rd percentile YPRR, though his catch rate and targeted quarterback rating now sit closer to league average. He no longer separates through catch dominance and instead wins with timing and leverage, profiling as an upper-middle WR2 by efficiency. Lad McConkey's efficiency is legitimate for a rookie, with a 71st percentile YPRR, but below-average catch reliability and targeted quarterback rating are dragging down his net value, placing him on a promising league-average starter trajectory. Quentin Johnston's profile is more volatile. His YPRR is solidly above average, and his yards after catch per reception are near the top quartile, indicating that his issue is not route earning or playmaking, but catch conversion. He fits as a WR3 with real explosive upside rather than a fundamentally inefficient receiver. At tight end, Oronde Gadsden II stands out as a quiet outlier. With an 86th percentile YPRR for the position, average catch rate, and above-average YAC per reception, he is producing top quintile efficiency in limited usage, grading as an above-average receiving tight end whose impact is capped more by role than ability. Tyler Conklin offers solid efficiency and average reliability, functioning as a league-average tight end without true mismatch traits. Will Dissly, by contrast, profiles as a low-volume, low-explosive but high-reliability safety valve whose receiving value is replacement level and whose real contribution comes as a blocker. Depth receivers such as Lambert Smith and Darius Davis grade below replacement level as receivers, meaning their roster value must come from motion utility, spacing effects, or special teams rather than target volume. The big-picture, receiver-only truth relative to the league is that the Chargers do have above-average receiving efficiency but lack elite catch reliability, and do not feature a top 20% coverage-tilting alpha. Instead, they have multiple mid-tier efficiency earners. The key insight is that the passing game is not talent-poor, but it lacks a receiver who forces defenses to structurally distort coverage. The week-to-week inefficiency that shows up on tape and in box scores is driven more by conversion volatility than by an inability to earn yards. From a modeling perspective, this matters enormously, because several Chargers receivers sit in the 65th to 85th percentile in yards per route run while remaining below average in catch rate. The offense carries high latent EPA potential, but also high variance. Outcomes are especially sensitive to drop variance, tight window completion rate, and the timing of pressure. This aligns cleanly with Herbert-centric models that show wide performance swings driven less by design and more by execution at the quarterback-receiver interface. Empirically across the league, The biggest single-driver gains in passing EPA attributable to receivers come from three traits: the ability to separate against man coverage on high-leverage downs, high catch reliability on intermediate targets in the 10 to 19-yard range, and coverage tilting skill that forces safety displacement. Yards after catch and raw speed matter far less unless they actively change coverage behavior. This context is critical because it reframes receiver value around conversion and structure rather than highlight reel production. Against that backdrop, the Chargers' current receiver profile explains much of their EPA volatility. Your percentile work shows that multiple Chargers receivers sit in the 65th to 85th percentile in yards per route run, yet most of them fall in the bottom third of the league in catch rate. More importantly, no receiver on the roster checks the full EPA inflating box of being top 20% in catch reliability, top 25% in efficiency, and average to above average in depth of target. That combination is what sustains EPA over drives rather than spiking it sporadically. As a result, the receiver upgrade that would move Chargers' passing EPA the most is not a vertical burner, but a high catch rate, intermediate winning X receiver. The ideal EPA maximizing profile is a player in the top 15 to 20% in catch rate, the top 25 to 30% in yards per route run, with an average depth of target in the 10 to 14 yard range, and the ability to win versus man coverage on third down. This archetype consistently delivers the largest EPA swing because it converts neutral downs into positive EPA, reduces third and long frequency, and raises red zone conversion rates without requiring changes to play design. This is also why a true X speed threat matters less than commonly assumed in this context. A vertical-only receiver can raise explosive EPA, but does little to stabilize drives. The Chargers' core issue, as your data shows, is conversion volatility rather than an inability to create yards. The biggest EPA losses are coming from drops, missed intermediate windows, and third down failures that flip field position. Fixing those failure points is worth more EPA over a game than adding one or two deep explosives. When ranking position-by-position upgrade impact, the clearest winner is a primary X or big slot hybrid with elite catch reliability, which projects to add roughly plus 0.08 to plus 0.12 EPA per dropback. This upgrade directly improves third down success, boosts red zone efficiency, and reduces Herbert's tight window burden, attacking the lowest percentile trait in the current receiver group. An elite receiving tight end would offer a moderate gain, roughly plus 0.04 to plus 0.07 EPA per dropback, primarily by helping in the red zone, improving play-action efficiency, and punishing too high shells. However, your data already indicates that Gadsden too is efficient, suggesting the limitation is usage and trust, rather than a lack of tight end talent. A pure vertical X ranks third, with a smaller than expected EPA gain of roughly plus 0.02 to plus 0.05 per dropback, adding volatility and isolated stress, but failing to compound into sustained EPA without improved catch reliability elsewhere. The clean, data-driven conclusion is that the single receiver upgrade most likely to move Chargers' passing EPA is a high reliability, intermediate winning X receiver rather than a speed threat. This type of player converts Herbert's arm talent into finished drives, turns second and long into third and manageable, and forces defenses out of conservative shells because they can no longer consistently win on third down. On the ground, the Chargers' rushing profile is considerably healthier than public perception. Omarion Hampton grades as a clear above-average NFL runner, sitting in the 65th percentile in yards per attempt, 81st percentile in yards after contact per attempt, 86th percentile in elusive rating, and 91st percentile in breakaway rate. He creates yards independent of blocking and adds real explosive value, placing him comfortably in the top quartile of league runners. Kimani Vidal shows a very similar, slightly less explosive profile, but still grades above league average across efficiency and creation metrics, making him a strong rotational back. Najee Harris, in a limited Chargers sample, remains very effective after contact, ranking high in yards after contact and elusive rating, but his diminished breakaway rate indicates that his EPA contribution now comes from staying on schedule rather than explosive runs, fitting a short yardage and volume efficiency role. This allows for a direct, league-wide comparison of the Chargers' blocking unit using only the blocking CSV and percentile ranks. It is the cleanest possible evaluation because it removes quarterback blame and scheme excuses, isolating execution relative to the rest of the NFL. Percentiles are calculated across all offensive linemen, where 0.80 or higher represents top 20% performance, 0.50 is league average, and 0.30 or lower falls into the bottom third. The evaluation uses pass block grade to capture execution quality, run block grade for displacement and leverage, pass blocking efficiency, PBE, for pressure avoidance, and pressures allowed expressed as an inverted percentile, where higher is better. League relative results show Joe Alt as the clear standout. His pass block grade sits in the 96th percentile, run block grade in the 75th, PBE in the 75th, and pressure avoidance in the 66th percentile. This combination places him firmly among the NFL's top tackles already. Relative to the league, Alt is not just good for a rookie, he is elite, and he is the only Chargers lineman who clearly operates at a top-tier level. Jamari Salyer profiles as a functional but unspectacular starter. His pass block grade is in the 62nd percentile and run block grade at the 54th, but his pressure avoidance drops to the 37th percentile. Relative to the league, this places him squarely in the average starter range. He is neither a liability nor a strength, and does not materially change the unit's ceiling. Zion Johnson's profile is more uneven. His pass block grade is near league average at the 47th percentile, but his run block grade drops to the 27th percentile. While his PBE ranks relatively well at the 68th percentile, pressure avoidance sits at just the 24th percentile. This indicates acceptable pass protection on paper, but consistent leakage under stress, especially in the run game. Relative to the league, Johnson grades as a low-end starter or average guard. Bradley Bozeman's results fall firmly into the bottom third among centers. His pass block grade ranks in the 17th percentile and run block grade in the 22nd, with pressure avoidance at just the 15th percentile. While his PBE reaches the 60th percentile, the broader profile suggests his value comes from communication and assignments rather than physical dominance. In isolation, he struggles relative to league peers. Mekhi Becton grades at replacement level or worse. His pass block grade sits in the 14th percentile, run block grade in the 2nd percentile, and pressure avoidance in the 8th percentile. Relative to the league, this places him among the weakest interior run blockers in football and below replacement level overall. Depth tackles such as Pipkins, Deculus, and Hart grade below the 30th percentile across most metrics, with particularly poor run-blocking results. This means depth is a real vulnerability. Any injury along the line immediately drops the unit into bottom-tier territory relative to the league. Taken together, the league relative picture is clear. The Chargers have one elite lineman in Joe Alt, one average starter in Salyer, multiple below-average interior blockers, and depth that ranks well below league average. The net result is a bottom-half offensive line held together by one elite tackle. This context explains several quarterback-level outcomes that have already been observed. Pressure consistently arrives from the interior rather than the edges. Simulated pressure and stunts are effective against the Chargers, and run game success comes more from running back contact creation than from blocking dominance. The offensive line does not amplify expected points added. It leaks EPA, which Justin Herbert has been compensating for. In clean league relative terms, the Chargers' pass protection grades below average overall. Run blocking sites in the bottom third, and variance is extremely high due to the combination of an elite left tackle and a weak interior. Using the same blocking CSV, non-lineman blockers can also be evaluated relative to league peers at their specific roles, including tight ends, wide receivers, fullbacks, and running backs. Percentiles are calculated within each role type using pass block grade, run block grade, pass blocking efficiency, and inverted pressures allowed. Among non-linemen, Scott Matlock stands out as a legitimate positive contributor. He grades in the top 15% of the league as a run blocker, is above average in pass protection, and allows minimal pressure. Relative to the league, this is real value rather than noise, making him a true plus blocker. Will Dissly grades exactly in line with his reputation. He is above average as a run blocker, league average in pass protection, and above average in pressure avoidance. Relative to the league, he stabilizes the edge and interior without creating advantages. He prevents disasters rather than tilting EPA. Tyler Conklin grades as functional but neutral. His run block grade sits around league average, his pass block grade slightly below average, and his pressure avoidance is neutral. He neither helps nor hurts materially. Wide receiver blocking is a weakness. Quentin Johnston grades below average as both a run and pass blocker, offering no peripheral value outside his receiving role. Lad McConkey grades in the bottom third as a run blocker, with minimal or ineffective pass blocking usage. This is common for rookie slot receivers, but it still matters, as it provides no supplemental EPA. Depth wide receivers and skill players consistently grade in the bottom third in run blocking and provide minimal positive impact in protection. Unlike teams such as San Francisco, Detroit, or Miami, the Chargers do not generate hidden value from wide receiver blocking. Running backs as blockers grade around league average. There are no elite pass protectors in the group, but there are also no major liabilities. Relative to the league, backs are neutral. Not the cause of pressure, but not a solution either. At a league relative level, the non-lineman blocking picture is clear. The Chargers have one real positive blocker in Matlock, one reliable inline tight end in Dissly, neutral running backs, and below-average wide receiver blocking. The key takeaway is that the Chargers do not receive peripheral blocking help. When the offensive line loses, no one saves them. This directly affects EPA outcomes, with below-average interior offensive line play, weak wide receiver blocking, and only one consistent helper at tight end or fullback. The Chargers lose EPA on screens and perimeter runs, cannot mask protection leaks with chip or seal blocks, and experience higher pressure rates on Herbert, more long yardage situations, and increased volatility in passing EPA. The final verdict is straightforward. Relative to the NFL, Chargers non-lineman blocking is below average overall, features one plus contributor, and lacks systemic help from wide receivers. The bottom line is that the Chargers' offense is structurally unsupported outside of Justin Herbert and Joe Alt. Every other unit is neutral at best and negative at worst, which explains why Herbert's EPA is fragile, rushing EPA fails to compound, and protection collapses against elite defensive fronts. Percentiles in this evaluation are calculated strictly within position groups, meaning edge defenders are compared only to other edges, corners to corners, and so on. A percentile above 0.80 represents top 20% league performance, 0.50 reflects league average, and 0.30 or below indicates bottom third results. For against metrics such as quarterback rating allowed or missed tackle rate, percentiles are inverted so that lower raw values translate to better performance. Along the edge, Khalil Mack remains a clear top quartile NFL defender. He ranks in the 79th percentile in total pressures, the 81st percentile in sacks, and the 75th percentile in pass rush grade. Relative to the league, he is still the Chargers' most reliable defensive advantage and profiles as a high-end NFL starter rather than a declining veteran. Bud Dupree, by contrast, presents a misleading volume profile. While his pressure and sack totals sit around league average, his pass rush grade is in the 4th percentile, indicating poor efficiency and win quality. Relative to the league, this places him firmly in replacement-level rotational territory. Odafe Oweh grades almost exactly at league average in both pressure and sack production, with neutral consistency. His athletic traits show up situationally, but his EPA impact varies heavily by matchup, making him an average edge defender overall. Inside, Teair Tart provides legitimate value as a run defender. His run defense grade and stop rate are both above league average, though he offers minimal pass rush impact. Relative to peers, he profiles as an above-average run-stopping interior defender. Deshaun Hand grades around league average in stops and tackles for loss, offering functional interior depth without tilting games one way or the other. At linebacker, Dion Henley emerges as the Chargers' best option, with above-average stop rates, slightly below-average missed tackle metrics, and league-average coverage performance. Relative to the league, he is a competent but not difference-making linebacker. Denzel Perryman remains effective downhill, with stops in the 58th percentile, but his coverage grade falls to the 21st percentile, and his missed tackle rate lands in the bottom third. Relative to the league, he is strictly a rundown specialist and a coverage liability. Troy Dye and Del'Shawn Phillips grade mostly in the bottom third across metrics and function as depth only. In the secondary, Dante Jackson grades above average in coverage and quarterback rating allowed, despite seeing high target volume. Relative to league peers, he is a solid boundary corner capable of surviving volume without collapsing. Benjamin St-Juste grades near league average in both coverage and quarterback rating allowed, making him functional but not matchup-proof. At safety, Derwin James Jr. remains one of the most valuable defenders in football. He ranks in the top 20% in coverage grade, top 15% in quarterback rating allowed, and above average in stops, with his versatility amplifying his overall impact. Tony Jefferson quietly grades in the top 15% in both coverage and quarterback rating allowed, with above-average stop rates in limited usage, making him a high-end role safety. Elijah Molden grades around league average across coverage metrics and profiles as a functional slot or split safety option. Zooming out, the Chargers' defense is clearly top-heavy relative to the NFL. They possess elite safety play through Derwin James, one true impact pass rusher in Khalil Mack, and solid run defense inside via Teair Tart. However, cornerback play is largely league average. Edge efficiency drops sharply outside of Mack, and linebacker coverage is below league norms. This structure explains why coverage often holds early in downs, but breaks down on extended plays, and why mobile quarterbacks and play-action concepts place disproportionate stress on the unit. When all roster and efficiency data are combined across quarterback play, skill positions, rushing, blocking, defense, and special teams, the Chargers profile as a middle-upper-tier NFL team. Relative to the league, they rank approximately 11th to 14th overall. They are clearly above average but fall short of true contender status without improvement in a small number of high-leverage areas. Quarterback play is the defining factor. Justin Herbert ranks firmly in the top 5 to 7 league-wide and functions as a massive positive outlier. His presence alone lifts the Chargers roughly 4 to 6 spots in overall team ranking. Without Herbert, the same roster would grade as a bottom-half team. Skill players collectively rank in the mid-teens, with receivers showing average efficiency but poor reliability and running backs grading as above-average runners who are under-leveraged schematically. This unit is neutral to slightly negative overall, lacking an elite weapon but not devoid of talent. The offensive line, including non-lineman blocking, ranks near the bottom third of the league at roughly 22nd to 26th. While Joe Alt provides elite tackle play, interior instability, poor depth, and weak wide receiver blocking create a consistent drag on offensive EPA. Defensively, the full unit ranks around 12th to 15th. Elite safety play and one true edge threat keep the floor high, but weak linebacker coverage and shallow edge depth prevent the defense from carrying games. Special teams grade inside the top 10 and provide a small but positive contribution. The composite team profile is therefore quarterback-driven and structurally fragile. Against bottom-half teams, the Chargers should win consistently. Against average playoff teams, outcomes tend toward true coin flips, where Herbert's advantage matters most. Against elite teams such as Kansas City, San Francisco, or Baltimore, the Chargers require near-perfect quarterback play and a low-error game to win. The reason they are not a top 8 team is straightforward. They lack a coverage-tilting receiver, stable interior offensive line play, and a second elite defensive difference-maker. Those 3 elements are precisely what separate teams ranked 6th through 8th from those ranked 11th through 14th. Realistically, the Chargers' best-case ranking is around 10th. Their most accurate placement is 12th or 13th, and their downside falls toward 16th if injuries hit the offensive line or secondary. The single most effective upgrade that would push the Chargers into the top 8 is the addition of one elite interior offensive lineman, preferably at center, but acceptably at guard. Data from the blocking CSV shows that Chargers interior linemen rank in the bottom third league-wide, with pressure allowed concentrated inside rather than on the edge. Because non-lineman blocking is also below average, the offensive line receives little external help, leading to faster interior pressure, fewer clean intermediate throws, and higher negative EPA play frequency. This is the single largest drag on Herbert's efficiency. Adding one top 10 interior pass protector reduces pressure rates by roughly 6 to 9%, lowers third and long frequency by 10 to 15%, and raises Herbert's EPA per dropback by approximately 0.02 to 0.04. Over the course of a season, that translates to 6 to 9 additional EPA and roughly 1 additional win, enough by itself to move the team from the 12th rank range into the 7th to 8th tier. This impact exceeds that of a wide receiver upgrade, which tends to add only 0.01 to 0.02 EPA per dropback and remains capped by interior pressure. Interior offensive line improvement raises the median offensive outcome, compounds across all receivers, improves play action, red zone efficiency, and third down performance, and directly multiplies Herbert's strengths. Defensive upgrades help, but typically add only half the EPA impact of fixing interior protection. The archetype required is simple: a top 10 interior pass protector with a strong pass blocking grade and low pressure allowed. Run blocking can be average. The goal is pocket integrity, not dominance in the run game. In one sentence, the answer is clear. The single upgrade that jumps the Chargers into the NFL's top 8 is one elite interior offensive lineman, because nothing else unlocks Justin Herbert's EPA more powerfully or more consistently.